So, gentlemen, here we are in 2024, getting ready for 2025. So, what are your thoughts right now? How do you feel about where we are right now in this world? And then we'll do a little more introduction stuff, but I want to hear from you first, then we'll go bigger. Go on. She ain't show.
No, you start.
Right now, I think the world is in a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation, a lot of bickering back and forth. And I don't know, I'm kind of iffy about what's going on with the whole climate of the nation right now.
Okay.
I guess I see it a little bit more optimistic. I feel like, sure, all those things, I see all those things that he said, but I think that more people are coming out of like traditions that don't serve them, are coming out of thought processes that keep them in a certain space, you know, particularly culturally. And then also, I know we're going to get there, but really I see a remnant rising up of like young people, and I'm young myself, but like millennial Gen Zers, like thirsting for biblical truth, even though we still see all the other stuff that's going on. But I think I'm encouraged by how much truth people are actually searching for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all know I'm Jackie Goodell, right here, Apache Goodell, and Quentin Giles. It is great to be hanging with you guys, and I like this because I think that what we're doing right now, the whole purpose of this was to have a discussion, just a simple discussion that deals with what we're dealing with. I wanted to call it like God versus politics. That's what I was like, God vs. politics. And because it's just interesting that somehow or another, within a couple of months, it became a big thing about God. When we have gone years and didn't nobody care about him, you know, but all of a sudden in our politics, it seems as if there's a divide, and it seems that there's something with each of us where we're bumping heads with each other over our politics. So I want to talk about that. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself now, Mr.
Okay, my name is
Mr.
Apache Goodell. I'm the owner of Good Tea Cakes. I'm also a Christian counselor. Just a person that's just looking for the lost sheep out there. That's what I do.
Okay. Mr. Quintus.
So I'm Quentin R. Giles. I am a cultural and political commentator. I'm a therapist. And I'm a servant of the Lord, you know. Dad, husband, all the things.
Okay, and speaking of dads, dads,
right?
Girl dads are right in here. So, and great girl dads. I love it. It's a good thing to see. Okay, so let's jump in. So when we're talking about this, one thing that I knew, I talked to a few people, and I told them, I said, I want to do this thing where we could kind of just talk about this atmosphere right now. But I didn't. The purpose is not to make people change how they decide they want to vote. That's everybody's choice. That's our right to vote how you want to vote. So this is not about trying to change anybody's vote or anything like that. This, to me, is mainly about us as Christians and how we are navigating in this space right now, and how we're seeing stuff and how we're calling stuff, and what our responsibility is in these areas. Because to me, that's a bigger concern. Okay, so let's go on into that. So let's go talking just immediately about just the process of voting. Because a lot of folks, they just don't vote. They don't vote at all. So tell me what you guys think about that. I'm going to go on this side right here.
I think to me, it's a wild notion when people choose not to vote. Specifically because we all live in America. We pay taxes.
Exactly.
Tax dollars fund politicians, or they pay the salaries of politicians. Politicians create laws that we must follow, or there are negative consequences. So we literally pay people to tell us what to do. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm going to need to know where my nickels and pennies are going if I am by law having to abide by something. So I think just baseline, that is one reason why people should vote and be politically engaged because of that. And then secondly, there's real change from coming. There can be, let me specify, there can be real and substantial change when we as a people elect people that will work for the people.
Okay.
Laws written by men. We all Black in here, right? At one point in time, the law allowed slavery.
Right.
Yes, we had a civil war and all those things, but the only way in which we got rid of slavery in the way in which we know it, slavery is still a thing when you talk about incarcerated folks, but the way in which we know chattel slavery is because another law was written to remove it.
Right.
So people had to vote.
Right.
Those people in power in order to write a law so that we can sit here and thrive in the lives that we have. So
okay.
That's my thought.
So when I hear that, what I hear, because I hear scripture when you're talking. Sure. The Bible says obey the laws of the land. Which means he's telling us we got to obey him, so we may as well have something to do with it because we're bad stewards then. If we know that our money is going into something that we're not even willing to help manage.
Sure. Now that's a word. I think that thing approved. Yeah.
Okay. What are you thinking, sir?
I definitely think voting is important, but I think it's more important to deal with, especially with your local elections. People might be confused about, the federal side, but your local elections are extremely important because these are people that are dealing with things that drastically affect you day to day. So I feel if you are just mad or confused about Trump or Kamala Harris, you still have these local people that are going to be controlling your districts, your areas. It's a lot of things that you can get in front of by going out to vote. So that's why I feel it's really important.
Okay. So my recommendation is we need to be schooled a whole lot more because there's so much on so many levels that we don't know anything about. And that sometimes keeps us. My people are destroyed. Why? For lack of knowledge. Wow. Sometimes we destroy the power we've been given. And like you said, we didn't always have it.
Correct.
We didn't have it, but now we got it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we finally get it, we don't do anything with it. And it's like, why are you complaining about something you're not going to take part in?
I mean, and there are resources for people to go to. I go to Ballotopia a lot because even though I'm ingrained in the stuff, I don't necessarily always know who's running for what or what is. Like we have a city comptroller here in Houston. I had to figure out what that actually meant, which is really that position is a guardrail, like a kind of like another check on our city council. So if you're watching and you're from Houston, we just approved like the millions of dollars in back pay to firefighters, right? So they couldn't pass that unless the city comptroller ran the audit, ran the analysis, signed off on it, and gave it back. It's like a watchdog internally. Now I'm ingrained, but every city does not have a city comptroller, right? So I go to ballotopia.com. I find out like what is the position, who's running for it, what do they stand for. So there are resources there for people to tap into if they want to tap into it.
Okay, so tell us again, because you said it fast, battle.
Sorry, I do talk fast. My bad.
No, it's not a problem. I just want to make sure that the person who is the excuse is going to be, I didn't hear what he said. I want to make sure we hear so we have no excuse that we couldn't go to because we'll go everywhere else.
Okay, Google Ballotopia.
Ballotopia.
Yeah.
Okay, like a ballot.
Yeah,
Spell
like a
it
ballot.
out.
And literally you can pull up, it's not just Houston. I mean, it's everywhere. It'll give you who's running on the federal side. It's giving you who's running at your statewide elections, like your attorney general, or your state attorney general, your governor. It'll drill down to your local elections. And then after the elections, the thing I like about it is it'll give you the results. So you can look at previous elections to see like how did the vote break? Like who got what percentage of what? It will also show you the vote tally for the primaries because, people run in the primary, they may have a runoff, then you go to the actual ballot, if you will, or the actual race. So it's a good resource if you want to know.
Exactly. And we need to know.
Yeah.
We need to know. Because, again, we can't complain about what we don't participate in.
Correct.
It makes no sense. I mean, we do it all the time.
I mean,
but we ain't listening
there's ways to get information. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So then when we're talking about voting, so we already know what our stance should be as Christians. Okay, let's go to the next thing. And I'm going to need you to help us with the economy thing. Tell us what is the thing? Because really, we're staying in the middle of this conversation. We just want to know what's going on and where should the Christians be. I'm a real big believer in don't go up here because when you come down, it's going to hurt. Don't stay down there because it's hard to get back up if you go too low. But if you find a place right here and you can stay there, we need to know as Christians, where's our place? where should our mindset be when we see things happening, even in our economy? So what's the problem in our economy right now, other than the price of eggs?
The eggs is high as giraffe. It's insane.
They are.
I guess the problem is there are two different realities happening. So as far as our economy goes, our economy is technically doing well right now. It's doing well. It's the envy of the world. Everybody lived through COVID. When I say everybody, I mean the countries, right? Nations lived through COVID, and we are the only one that has bounced back in a way in which other countries have not. We've had growth where other countries have not. So we are the envy of the world in that. Where the disconnect is though our economy as a whole is doing good, people every day on the ground, to your point about eggs, are not feeling that because prices are still high. So really the conversation, it was about inflation. The conversation has moved from inflation to price gouging, because if we're doing well systemically, why are the prices still high? So I think that's where the disconnect comes in, but that's more of a, not necessarily a policy thing, that's a business
and
owner decision thing.
And what I saw on my end, being a business owner, was it wasn't just the price gouging on particular products, it was the price of rent went sky high. So it was the thing was, when COVID happened, you had a drop and then a very fast bounce back. And when you put money into the economy and people have money now, the economy bounced back, but it was an artificial bounce back because money was given. So then it throws off inflation. And so my rent, I think it's went up 3 times. But when we had the commercial space, the rent went from $1,300 to maybe $1,700, just like that. And I was just like, well, why are prices going so high so fast? Even when you look at the prices compared from 2000 to now on houses, this house maybe went up $150,000 because people migrated. It was just so many crazy things going on. So many people came from Chicago and California, and they were paying above price. So this jacked up price, like everything just went crazy. And now I think Houston is off balance because the prices are high, but the Houstonians know that their house is not worth that.
It ain't worth that. That'll preach too. It ain't worth that. Because we're looking for a home.
Okay, so how is it fixed? I mean, we're looking for something to be fixed. That's why we're stuck in the middle of who we want to vote for. We want it fixed.
The problem is, 2008 happened, and what I be saying is a lot of people now were staying at their mama house in 2008. They were still in school. They didn't really understand the gravity of what happened. And so now we're here in 2024, and I'm looking at 2008, and I'm like, well, the bottom has to fall. You can't correct anything unless the bottom falls out. But nobody wants to let the bottom fall out under their watch. So it looks bad on the Democrats if they let the bottom fall up under them. And just like when President Obama came in, when the bottom falls out under Republicans, they got to take that L. But nobody wants to take the L, so it's kind of like kicking the can down the road when something has to happen.
Okay, so one thing that I've noticed in this atmosphere right now is, with us as Christians, we're picking our sides based on the things we're talking about now. They're picking a side because of the economy. We believe this is going on. We believe this is going on. And we're trying to pick. Now, my thing in even wanting to have this discussion is that for me, when I look at it, the rhetoric that we have on both sides that is going on, and the economy being a huge part of the discussion of everything that's going on, I realize that for me, when I look at it as a Christian, and I'm going to just say it the way I'm going to say it, this is not really my economy as a Christian, only because I know this stuff has happened before and it's going to happen again. Yes, we do what we can do to make sure it's okay, because everybody in here needs to be, everybody's not me. Everybody's not a Christian. That's a big topic we'll deal with in a minute. But I believe that as Christians, if we are willing to combat and hate and disrespect and do things to each other behind something like this, then we're missing a bigger thing. Because somehow or another, we've been promised that we'd be okay when it got like this. So even, and not dismissing the fact that there's people who aren't Christians, we understand that, and that's why we're here. We should be able to be a blessing to people instead of looking like we're looking right now, where we're biting at each other. So give me your thoughts.
I guess give me a little more clarity on what you mean by, as a Christian, this is not my economy. What do you mean by that?
When I say that, I realize that a lot of times I have been in those exact places where the bottom felt like it fell out, but somehow or another I stayed afloat because I have a promise that he's going to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And I hold to it, and my faith stays right there. Mm-hmm. Now, he may use people. He may use different things. He may use what's in this economy. He may use people in this. He may use the government. I don't know. I just know that when I talked about being here, I can't get so caught up on one topic that I forget the fact that I have a promise that we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And see, this is mainly in my mind for us as believers, but I know a lot of other people will be listening. So by no means am I trying to tell them it's not important what's going on, that we don't have to vote, we don't have to pay attention to it, that it's okay like that because I'm going to be all right. That's not the conversation at all, because I know that there's a lot of people who are hurting and they need help. But with us, the people, okay, let me say it this way. My people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, and, then I'll heal the land. We have the power to help with our politics, but we're so busy at each other. All we're caring about is what we're getting out of it. So we're not in a place where we even care about the person who's doing worse off than us. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. Now I know what you're saying. So then in that instance, I agree. I agree. I think initially when I heard you say, like, this is not my economy, to me, it almost sounded like, well, I don't have to be worried about it.
Oh, no.
Because I hear that.
You heard the eggs, right? Because I eat eggs all the time.
Yeah. I hear that, like,
no.
I was in North Carolina this past weekend doing some relational organizing for the election. And there were some people, we were asking them, like, are you registered to vote? And the response was, I cast mine with Jesus. And you kind of said that earlier before I started rolling. And I was like, okay. Like theologically, I understand what you mean.
Right.
We have an opportunity to be engaged in the process, whereas other folks in other countries don't have the same opportunity.
And stewardship. We owe it to the fact that we've been given dominion in this world.
Here.
Yes.
And this is the way this country is set up. So, 100%. I agree with, like, the Lord will cover me. He will supply all my needs. He didn't say he would give me all my wants.
Exactly.
He will supply all my needs.
Exactly.
So I'm with you on that level, that level playing field there. But I personally just do believe, like, we should be involved in it, right? Even though we know how the story ends, we know the devil catch a 3-piece and the Lord wins in the end. We know this, right?
I don't know what a 3-piece is, but I know it ain't a suit, right?
Yeah, we know the devil, he loses.
Okay.
We know that. And at the same time, like, I just think that we have a responsibility to, like, if we can help. And if being involved politically, because we live in this country, and that's the way in which this country operates, then we should be involved.
Exactly.
And we should care about, like, whose vision for the economy is going to do the most good for the most people. At least that's how I look at it. Like, I don't believe everybody's supposed to be rich. I don't believe that everybody's supposed to be middle class. I don't believe that everybody's supposed to be poor. I believe that it's going to be a mix of all of those things. But what I do believe is that because we are in a country that writes laws for people, those laws should help the most people possible. So you gotta be involved in that. Yeah.
I like that.
So what I got from it when you said this is not my economy, what I was thinking more so was, it's things in an election that I do not agree with as a Christian. The greed part of it, when we're talking about the one side, it seems just more like a greed thing that's attached to it that I just, as a Christian, I can't stand by. We got people selling Bibles that they signed. And I'm sitting there like,
with a constitution in it.
well, that don't make sense to me.
Right,
And then we have another side. I don't really stand with abortion, but there's some things about abortion I understand. There's some things I don't understand. I have a daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I don't want a man in the bathroom with her, shaving his legs.
Right.
So there's some things for me about that particular thing when you said it's not my economy. There's some things about that I don't like on both sides.
Right.
So, but we still have to make a decision. The decision still has to be made nonetheless. You can't sit back and say, well, I didn't vote because these issues don't pertain to me. They're going to pertain to you either way. It's better to make a decision and draw a line in the sand than not make a decision at all.
Which is a decision.
What's that?
Which is a decision.
That is a decision.
Absolutely.
The decision's been made. Okay,
Receiving your power.
so you talked a little bit about abortion, so let's go there real quick. Okay, so I've talked to people in the past, and I tell them that, okay, y'all just have to bear with me one moment. I tell them, I said, God is both pro-life and pro-choice. And I say that because he says, I set before you life and death. Choose. But choose life that you could live. So he's always, one thing that people have that animals don't have is the ability to choose. We have the ability to choose. One thing that I have a problem with when it comes to the topic of abortion. Now, have I ever had one? No. Will I have one? No. Would I ever have one? I hope I would never have one because I hope I never get one. I'm too old now. But anyways, thank you, Lord. I made
the Lord
it.
can do work now.
No, we ain't calling on them Sarah blessings. We ain't trying to do that. Let's just change the subject real quick. Anyways, but when I see that, I realize, and hear me out for a moment. On both sides, there are people who have had abortions. There's just people who have had them. There's Christians who have had them. They had the choice. They took the choice. They had an abortion. Whatever happened, they got saved. They're better now. They're mad at everybody else who's trying to have them. Okay, I get it. But I realize also, realize that God gives us choice. I don't believe that politics is in place to get people to keep God's law when God's law didn't get you to keep God's law.
Well, I have a personal story pertaining to abortion.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily agree with abortion. But when I was 10 years old, my mom was carrying a baby and they told her she had a baby, she was going to die. So she gave me and my 11-year-old sister the choice to say, hey, do you want this baby or do you want me? And we chose my mom.
Right.
Does this make me pro-life or pro-choice?
Right.
But I said, it helped me understand that situation being young, that everything's not an absolute.
Right. And the thing is, I heard a man, he was a pastor. I saw a little clip where he said that people and I'm going to just say it the way he said it, in the black church need to rise up and admit that you are not Christian, you're not this, you're not this, you're not that if you believe in abortion. But this is where I stand on that. Sin, according to God, is sin. The greatest one is blasphemy. Everything else, it's kind of like we trying to stay neutral because you go to, standing right next to Jesus on the cross were murderers. There's guys on both sides of him, but one of them made it to heaven. Why? Because they met Jesus and Jesus took them to heaven. So I understand that I would never say that killing anybody is right. When I did prison ministry, completely against the death penalty, but we do that they're trying to do it right now, and it's a life. So when you say we're pro-life, I worked in a system with CPS, with children. If you really are pro-life, why I got babies running around needing medication, they don't have nothing and they're hurting. And you see what I'm saying? You can't say you're pro-life and you only care about the life that's coming. So that is where I run into a problem. And the fact that as a Christian, I expect my law to give you no choice because that's my religion. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I understand how you got there. So I think,
thank you.
Yeah.
I said it better to myself earlier.
No, I got you. I'm with you. I'm with you. So I think a lot of the pro-life community is really pro-control. It's not really pro-life, to your point about the kids and CPS and all the things, and about state-sponsored executions,
exactly,
the death penalty, state-sponsored hitmens, if you will, right? So how does that? How do those things line up? I do think, from a Christian standpoint, I've thought about this a lot. I normally would be hesitant to talk about it because a lot of my audience is very progressive leaning. And so, that just comes with a whole host of things. However, where I've landed is like, no, my responsibility is to care about every life.
Right.
Period.
Exactly.
Every life. Do I think that we should still have abortion? Yes, in a particular framework. And me and my wife talk about this all the time. Like, I don't know if there needs to be like a new word created, because technically if a woman has an ectopic pregnancy where that baby lands in the fallopian tubes, that is going to result in death.
Right.
If you do not remove, or another word, abort that pregnancy. Right. And so we wouldn't look at that, or I wouldn't look at that situation and say, "Oh, you're taking the life of the child." No, it's just we live in a fallen world.
It's a life-saving procedure.
It's a life-saving procedure for the mother. Right. We live in a fallen world where stuff just happens sometimes. Right. So I wouldn't view it the same way I would view it where someone got pregnant and just didn't want to have the child. Right. Those are two very different things, and so I don't know if we'll ever get to a space where we create a new word where we're talking about abortion, a word where we're talking about abortion, where we're talking about saving the life of the mother. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I do think we still do have a responsibility to wage into the war of the argument to say that we should be pro-life in a sense that we are caring for viable children. We're caring for children once they get here. We're caring for people trying to go buy eggs at the grocery store. We're caring for death row inmates as well. For, I think Tony Evans said, from the womb to the tomb. I can get behind that. I agree with that stance. I do believe that is a more biblical framework to operate in. And if that means we have to enter the political space by voting, by voting with people who believe the same thing, then maybe we do need to do some type of carve out. And will that upset some folks because they're like, well, I don't want to have a kid if I don't want to have a kid? I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. But if you're just asking me from my perspective, I feel like I'm supposed to, based on the word, view people have the image of God imprinted on them.
Exactly.
We are
before they were made in the womb. He declared and called them. So then, in that Imago Dei, every person is special, valuable, and is deserving of dignity. Exactly. How we get there to it is still legislating what a person can do. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. That is my stance. That is where the way in which I view it. And to that point, where I see it as far as being able to do something proactive, again, I don't believe that regulating certain things, I know that we're doing laws. If the church wants to have say-so in it, the church to do their job. Because the way you get people with loving kindness and tender mercy have I drawn thee. If we loved people who are going through things, if we really reached out. I remember there was a lady back in 1980 something or another who was planning on having an abortion. She was going to have an abortion, and everybody, knew she was, but she went to this church, and a couple of people found out about it, and they spent time talking to her and just making sure she was okay. They never told her she couldn't. They just talked to her. They encouraged her. They made her feel, like she could live and she was going to be okay. So she still planned to do it. But when she went to the doctor's office, the doctor wasn't there, and she assumed it was God and walked away and had the baby, and the baby is well and doing great now.
I feel as Christians,
you see,
man,
we have a responsibility.
That we can have is understanding. Like everything is not an open and shut case.
It's not. It's not.
I can't tell a woman that's been raped or molested how it feels to have a baby, you know, from the person, and you looking at the baby and the baby look like, I don't know how that feels. So I can't tell you, you know, what to do in that situation. I can just say, hey, I don't really know what to go. And so I can't control you in that sense and be mad at you for you making a decision when something happened to you that you could not control.
Right. And I know there was a lady years ago, again, I'm telling my age again, who she was the product of an abortion that got botched. Meaning she was supposed to die and was somewhere and she didn't, and the nurse took her, because it's almost like executions. I learned a while ago, if you go to execute someone and there's a power outage or something, you gotta kind of let it go, because you know it's like exactly, you gotta let it go. Well, this little girl ended up growing up, ended up being a Christian, going around doing all kinds of stuff. You know, so it's those things like what you said, that we have a mark on us. I wonder how many. And okay, now this is where you see the other side of my conversation. I wonder how many people had the cure for cancer beforehand, but we never got to see it. How many could have fixed some of the things we got going on this earth? A child that had an imprint of God on them to do something. So it's never a thing of thinking it's okay. It's a thing of understanding that as Christians, we have to realize that our job can help with the process if we would do it instead of hating people. How do we get to where we hate?
I'm so glad you said that, because the thing that crossed my mind was, if we worked on loving people well, then maybe somebody still does it, but then maybe not. Like, I think about my own road to Damascus, if you will. The person that discipled me, the woman that discipled me, and I didn't know that's what she was doing at the time, because I was definitely in the streets. But she knew everything. She was very confident, so I would just, it was over the woman. I would tell her everything. I did, we ain't got to count it right now. But she always talked to me about the love of God. She always talked to me about how God wanted me. She prayed for me, even in the prayer. I'm pretty sure in her closet, she was praying for my sin that I was in. But when she was in my face, she was just
to your spirit.
Yes. And when I think about it, I invited her to our wedding. I ultimately go on, be saved. That's why I call it my road to Damascus after that. When I reflect back on that journey, I'm like, she just loved me well. And loved me through Christ well, and reintroduced me to Christ, because I grew up in the church, but you know, they don't really mean nothing. And so, but I just wonder if we as a body loved people well, and stop trying to call every demon out that you see. Where would people be? Now, is there room to snatch people out of the fire? Absolutely. Let's stick with the word. Let's be biblical.
Is it time to leave them alone in the fire? Because you might get burned. There might be.
To the spirit. The spirit is the God. Right. So I just wonder if we love people well, if we love people better, if we had compassion and empathy on them, and try to see it from their eyes. Just, I mean, okay, they may want to get an abortion. You was just with so and so the other day. We talked about it earlier. Sin, right? Talking about blaspheming, but sin. So. It's all the same in God's eyes. So love people well and have compassion upon them, and try to, again, I'm gonna harken back. Vote for people to be in positions of power. Maybe we have a better economic standpoint to care for folks, to care for the children. I mean, it's really a holistic approach. It's not a one size fits all to anything, but
I like how you said that. Because even with my road back, I would say, I remember when my sister was dying of cancer, and at this time I was an atheist, but nobody in my family knew. And so my sister, knowing all my business, went to my grandmother's house, and they were just like harping on her to eat. You need to eat, man. You need to do this. She was like, well, Pat, you don't believe in Jesus. And everybody's just like, and at that time, they could have chose to be really, really mean to me and really...
Could have just drilled it back into you, like, you know.
My dad got up and left. He was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this right now. He just left. But nobody stopped loving me. Everybody continued loving me, and that showed me my way back. It's just like that, man. Like, you never know how you can change somebody by just giving them some of your attention, some of your time. being kind to people for no reason at all. Some people might be having a bad day, and you might be the person that makes them see something different. I spoke about that the other day. Like, you don't even know what type of change you can be just by being a good person.
And I know right now in this atmosphere, you can't find it as easily. Not on the platforms. We hear people talking about what's going on as far as elections. You hear a lot of people talking, and the Christians, they're going back and forth the same way everybody else is. And it's in the middle of all of this are people that God loves. And the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sin. It can cover some of the junk we sitting here trying to point out. You know, we can help people if we would love them. You know, what that, you know, I said, you know, we have all these commandments, the 10 commandments. Okay, we got the commandments from God. We got these laws from man. We're trying to make everybody in the world who doesn't even know God obey the laws that we were given. That we, like you said, we ain't even obeying them all. You know, we messed up because we missed the mark. But love and kindness, tender mercies draws people back. So if we're really trying to make this the political arena about religion, if we're trying to make it about that, we need to realize what our greatest commandment is: to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, and love your neighbor
What
as
I started
yourself.
doing was, since I come from a lot of people who don't believe in the Bible and things like that, I said, well, let me just give them spiritual principles. And the spiritual principles might lead you to God. And so I teach about identity. I teach about honoring, and these things might lead you this way. And so when I was teaching the other day about the soul, I was just like, you have people that always say, what does a person benefit the world to gain the world and lose a soul? And I said, but nobody teaches what that actually means. What is the soul to a person that doesn't understand spiritual principles? I said, you have your mind, your free will, and your emotion.
Right.
If you can teach people how to get these things in balance, well, maybe they can find God that way. But nobody's like teaching. Everybody's just kind of wagging fingers. Nobody's even saying that they have imperfect things that they've done.
Right.
You know, I'll expose my story just to help somebody else, you know.
You gotta do it right now, though.
No,
That's why I didn't go into detail.
I'm
But
just
you
kidding.
saying that I was an atheist at one point. Somebody might be an atheist, and they say, well, how did you make it back?
Right.
You know, you just never know how you can affect somebody by telling your story.
A lady told me a couple months ago, I was at a birthday gathering for this lady, and she told me, she said, and they kept asking me questions and stuff, and I said, okay, I then stood out because they keep calling me pastor. So, you know, I said, my name is Jackie. It's okay to call me Jackie. But then she kind of looked at me when she told me that her family had disowned her because of choices that she made in life, that they disowned her. And she hasn't been back to a church because her father told her, you can't go to church anymore.
Oh.
They told her, you can't go to church anymore. That's what we do when we point out sin that we're not in, but yet we don't point out the sin we are in. We tell somebody else that they're not accepted. We have to learn how to get this message right. We have to learn how to get it right.
Well, I think if...
Go ahead, may as well.
Well, I think...
We're going to deal with another topic. Go ahead.
Well, no, just to that point of trying to get the message right, it's real easy to get it wrong when you're not in your word. That's all I hear all day. Because when you say, I'm like, when you can become Jesus? How you going to tell her she can't go to church? Like, but when you,
and she hasn't. Since then.
When you're not in your word, or when you're in it and you don't, you're trying to get the scriptures to fit whatever it is you want to say, you know, I think it's very easy to then cast people out, cast people aside, you know, demonize, point all the things, as opposed to looking at the law in your own eye. But if you're in the scriptures, if you are reading and allowing the Lord to lead you and to tell you what he's trying to communicate to you, I personally don't know how you then could treat people in a particular way. Do we have shortcomings and shortfalls? And like, sure, me, I gotta watch my anger sometimes. That's just the truth. I just gotta watch it. I'm quick.
Okay. Thanks for the warning.
I'm just saying. You get that. No, I'm playing. But at the same time, I know that about myself. I give that to the Lord. I try to submit that to Him because I know that's a part of my iniquity that I'm working out. Right. So I just think that if people are not in their word, if they're not in a Bible believing church, if they're not being taught and shepherded correctly from the person preaching, then of course you got people who are Christians or Christian in name doing all kind of stuff.
Okay, so then let's address the huge elephant in the room.
Okay, what's the huge elephant?
Okay, the huge elephant in the room. Oh no, there's a bigger one than that. Okay. The bigger one is the one that says I'm a Christian.
Oh well.
And right now what we're doing is we're having a whole lot of rhetoric from everywhere that's being put the Christian name on it, and everybody thinks it's us.
It ain't us.
It's not us. We love people. Tell me something you know about a real Christian. Let's just go ahead and expose it right now. What do you know about a true Christian? How are we? How are we supposed to be? Because we're not seeing that very much out in the open. People are seeing and being told things, and we are getting a reputation for it.
If I see somebody and they don't speak up for themselves, I'm like, are you a real Christian? You can't be a real Christian and just let people run over you. You got to tell people about themselves. Say, hey, I don't stand for that. Like, it's a lot of things that when I read the Bible, I was 39 years old. And so I got to live a whole bunch of life. And when I read the Bible, it matched up to what I saw. And so when I tell it to people, I say, well, you can keep doing these things. But I say, well read here where it says this. Jesus was a kind and loving person, but he didn't let nobody talk to him any type of way. He didn't let people do iniquity around him and just
so we can be bold. We're not passive. We're not weak. We're not wimps. We're not anything like that. We are strong people, but we're also compassionate and caring.
Absolutely.
And we'll pay attention and listen, even if we don't agree with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me something that we are missing right now that people aren't seeing. The world is not seeing.
Well, I don't know that the world would see it. Okay, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. I don't know that the world would see it because the world would have to be in the Word to know. But I defer to, we'll know them by their fruits.
Okay.
So what are the fruits of the Spirit? That's how I can identify a Christian.
Okay.
That's easy. I may not, I'm cool with personalities clashing because that happens even in Christendom.
Exactly.
Personalities clashing. You gotta be cool. But I should be able to identify you by the fruits that you display. Okay.
And so then I'm going to answer that for the person who's listening right now, who is wondering about the people in their little circle. You know the difference. If you are around people and you feel peace, even though there's chaos, it's letting you know that there's something about them that's a little bit different because it's your love, joy, peace, long-suffering, patience, meekness, kindness. There's certain things that are attributes of a Christian. If you have people who are yelling at you, who are dogging you because you're in sin, and if you are, we've all been there. It's not talking to you alone. I'm sorry.
You were talking to me alone. You are correct.
Well, I had a mirror while I was talking to you. Okay. But all of us have been there. So if you have people around you who are talking bad about you, who are bad-mouthing you, telling you where you can't go when it comes to God and all that stuff, you have to understand that's not God's heart. Why would God send Jesus to die for you and then just discard you because you messed up when he already knew you was going to mess up? Let's just be honest. You don't have to even know the Bible to know that God loves you. And if the people who are here, if people are not caring, if they don't, now we can't do everything. Just the balance, the balance that you said there. I've had people tell me before because there was something that I couldn't do for them in the process of a system I was in. I couldn't give them something that they wanted. And I tried to tell them, well, they cussed me out and told me, well, I thought you were a Christian. That wasn't my job under God, was to make sure you got this. I don't have to prove it by doing what you want, but I should be what he called me to be to you. And that is love, at least.
I think one part of being a Christian is renouncing that shame. People try to shame you into doing things that are just not, it can't happen. It's just not going to happen.
It wasn't going to happen.
So you can't shame me into anything. I know who I am. I know who I got to answer to at the end of the day.
Very good.
And I really speak this on a lot of people, like getting rid of shame will help you in a lot of different areas. It'll help you with public speaking. It'll help you with being better with your husband or your wife. There was a lot of things I couldn't explain to my wife in the beginning. I couldn't explain that my finances was bad. I was bad with money. But she was like, why didn't you just tell me that you... I was like, well, I'm ashamed. She's like, don't do that.
Right,
you know?
right.
And we were supposed to be loving one another. How can I love you effectively if I don't know that you are struggling in this area?
Right.
So we have to get past shame, especially as Christians, in order to help others.
Right. Because if we carry the shame, then the people who see us and feel bad for us will probably carry some along with us.
Absolutely.
Mainly our children. Because, you know, I'll always think about the babies. Okay, last thing real quick, and then we'll let y'all wrap it up. Okay, and how can I make this the last thing and make it quick? Immigration.
What about it?
I don't know. I mean, that's the big thing. Everybody thinks somehow or another we're losing our land because people who... Wait. I was going to say that. People who weren't originally here came. That's all of us. I mean, but you know what I really believe? Okay, so I know I don't know how much time we got, but I'm gonna make it kind of quick. I'm gonna say what I say, then you guys can say whatever you want. We'll wrap this up. Okay, this is what I really believe about the economy, what I believe about immigration, what I believe about everything. We have in this world intelligent people.
Yeah.
Every nationality, every race, every gender, every denomination, some non-denomination, some atheists, some whatever. We have intelligent people in this world, and if we really wanted to solve the problems in America, we have the resources in America to do it. We just don't want to. There's a lot of us who know if I hold the power, then I keep the power.
Yes.
But there's somebody over there, if you got them and bought them in as free and as full as they are, you'd be better. But we're not willing to do it. So when we see immigrants, and I get it, there's some that come over legally. I believe in having something done properly. You know, if you're going to do it properly, no problem at all. But there's enough intelligence in our politics that can figure out a good way that works for human beings to be treated. We could do it if we wanted to.
I would agree there, and because that's my issue at large. Not treating people well, no matter who they are. We can agree. I agree. We should do. We should have a system. We should have a process. All the things, right? Don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is treating people inhumanely. I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay, because there's still people, and it's Christians.
Yes.
Now let's go back to the Christians again, because remember, we're trying to make sure we stay in the right place when it comes to people. When it comes to people.
Yes.
How on earth are we hating people that Jesus died for? That is not a Christian. And I hate to say it that way because, like I said, that man just said, you know, y'all ain't Christians if you do that. All I know, okay, maybe you are, maybe just immature and, you know, whatever. But anyways, we can't say that we love God who we have not seen, and we don't love people that we do.
Well, I don't know if they're not Christian because your salvation was between you and the Lord, but
exactly.
It's not Christ-like.
It's not Christ-like. There we go.
It's not giving me fruit.
It's not the fruit. It's not that fruit because it's love, joy, peace, and all that stuff.
I see one side of the immigration pendulum, and then I see another. And I'll use a little bit of history for reference. When all the Cubans came over, when he let out all the prisons and sent the Cubans over, there was a lot of Cubans that are here today that have committed great things to American society. And then you had some that had this big thing, and this is why Al Pacino is in Scarface. And so all of this happened. So I'm looking at, okay, we're going to have, God allowed this. They need to be here for a reason. I don't know what, but there going to be some good that comes from some of the people that come here. But you also going to have to take some of the bad of some of the people that showed up, and we don't know their intentions for America.
Right. And at the same time, we have in America people who are doing good for America, who've been here the whole time, and people who are in America who are messing us up and have been. So it's really a human issue. It's not even really immigration, because you can get really good people come over here and do really hard work and build things, do whatever it is they do, take black jobs. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh.
I'm so sorry. Anyways, you have people who can come over here and do well. They can do well and build this economy. You have some people who come who won't. But we had the same thing here before they got here.
Before they got here.
Before they got here, we had the same thing.
What I also look at is the American government. I say, do they have an agenda with this? Are they, and now you see Donald Trump talking about he's going to get rid of the Department of Education if anybody talks about slavery. And I was just like, well, is it a thing to get rid of slavery when you bring it in and you just water it down so much to say it wasn't that bad? Is it something there? Because we know there's the people and then there's the government that has their own thing.
And like I said, we have smart enough people, intelligent people. We could fix this if we wanted to.
Well, there was a fix on the table. Just since we go on there was a fix on the table. There was recently an immigration bill that was going to overhaul the system.
Yes.
It was a bipartisan bill. Bipartisan meaning both Democrat, Republican, and independents in elected positions all agreed upon this bill. It was written by one of the most staunch conservatives, Republicans, in the Senate. And before it got passed, Donald Trump told them to veto it. So, I mean, and that's just the facts. I'm not being political. That is just what happened. They all agreed on it. Joe Biden was going to sign it. Trump told him it's not good for him in the election process. Don't sign it or veto the bill, torpedo the bill. And so the bill is done. So we're still in the same spot.
For us to fuss about it, that should not be what we're fussing about. Unless you're going to fuss about why it didn't get signed.
Correct. I think we need to fuss about the facts, right? Not about our feelings, but the facts.
Right.
So we had a feeling that we needed to do something about the problem. There was a fix on the table that, again, it is hard to get anything passed on a bipartisan basis. Rarely does it happen.
But it did.
It was about to happen.
It would have.
It would have happened.
It would have happened.
So, you know.
And I think, and we'll, I guess we need to wrap it up, but I know one thing that I know is that a lot of times we pick our sides, we decide what it is going to benefit us, or what we think is going to benefit us, because some stuff we think is going to benefit us really ain't going to necessarily benefit us. We pick our sides based on that. But I think, like, for me, I mentioned this earlier, I'm not trying to get anybody to change who you're voting for or anything like that. It's your choice. I think that if you pay attention to that site that if you haven't already voted, pay attention to what's out there, know what's going on, make a decision, because this is not just about voting for what looks popular to you and the people you hang with. This is about stewardship. Your voice says what you want this place to look like. And if you do it just because it benefits you in one area, you've missed the whole thing. Because it's something that all of us, we got to live in here together. We've got to be able to find a way to take care of each other. If we don't, we will always be fighting this same type of battle. Last words, gentlemen. Go ahead.
I mean, how do you go after that? That was a mic drop.
A pin drop.
Pin drop. Yeah. I think character matters in who chooses or who we elect to represent us. I think policies matter. Character matters, right? And so I will leave people with that.
Okay.
The biggest thing I want to say is don't lose somebody over a candidate. Let people go through their democratic process and vote how they want to vote. But when people say, if you are voting for so-and-so, don't call me no more. I'm like, don't use that frame of mind, because we're going to need each other as much as possible in the coming generations. And if you cut somebody off, you might be cutting off somebody that could be a great ally.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate you guys. This was fun. I enjoyed hearing you.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Same.
All right. Cool.